Paragraph 3. Areas of dead coral are usually colonized rapidly by algae and often are later colonized by sponges and soft corals. In this sentence, the main verb is here are colonized, and also after and we have another main verb, which is the same, are colonized. This is actually a verb phrase. Since after and we don't have any subject, this subject is still the subject of this verb phrase. And due to that, we never placed any comma before and in order to keep the fluency of the sentence and keep it monolithic. An interesting grammatical point in this sentence is this word, algae. Algae is a Latin rooted word. It is both singular and plural. It is uncountable. Actually, it is green organisms that we usually see on the surface of water bodies. And make sure to become familiar with this word because you will see it in passages, in TOEFL passages frequently, and you will hear it a lot in TOEFL lectures. And I'm going to discuss Latin plurals because they become plural in a different way that we usually see in English, that we add s or es after words. Algae itself, as I mentioned earlier, is a plural word. Its singular form is alga, which is a Latin word. This is the plural form, and I'm going to introduce you with Latin words and Latin plurals, actually. But before beginning our discussion about Latin plurals, this is algae. This green organisms on the surface of this water body in the picture is algae. And as I recommended earlier, make sure to become familiar with these organisms because you will hear it a lot and you will see it frequently on TOEFL passages. The interesting topic of Latin plurals. There is a rule of thumb for making Latin rooted words plural. For words ending in A, we just add an E to the end of the word. Formula, formulae, like alga, algae, the same word that we have in the sentence. For words ending in EX or IX, we have ICES in plural form. Appendix, appendices, matrix, matrices. For words ending in ON or UM, we replace these words from the end of the word and add a. For example, stadium, stadia. For words ending in US, we replace this US with I to make the word plural. Cactus, cacti. Nucleus, nuclei. Other examples, formula, formulae. However, English plural for these words is also acceptable. You may not follow this Latin plural, so you adopt an English plural. Like this case, formulae, formulas. Appendix, appendices, appendixes in English form. Stadium, stadia, stadiums. Vertebra, vertebrae, vertebras. Vertebra is skeletal bits that begin part of our skeletal, and it begins from our neck and goes down to our bottom. Each bit is called vertebra. Radius, radii, radiuses. In English plural, we call it radiuses in plural. You may be familiar with radius in mathematics when we discuss circles in geometry. Aquarium, aquariums in English plural. Other words, fungus, fungi. Fungus fungus is an organism that mushrooms belong to this family of organisms. Medium, media. Datum, data. It may interest you that know that data is not a plural verb. It is actually a plural and singular word, but in Latin, it is a plural form of the singular word datum. Bacillus, bacilli, which is a kind of organism like microbe, and bacteria. Criterion, criteria. Alumnus, alumni. Alumna, alumni. Alumnus is referred to a man who is graduated from a school. Alumni, men graduated from a school. Alumna, a woman graduated from a school or institute or university. Alumni alumni actually refers to woman graduated from school. And in the case that we have a mixture of men and women graduated from a school, to refer to them, we use this word alumni. Okay, and an interesting word, octopus. Octopus. Octopus's plural form is octopuses. This is the English way of making words plural. However, some people may use octopi according to this rule. However, it is acceptable, but the more admissible form is the English plural, octopuses. Often here is an adverb of frequency. You may be familiar with a big list of adverbs of frequency like always, usually, often, frequently, rarely, seldom. However, sometimes it is clueless when we should use them. In this infographic, we see an important picture showing us when we should use adverbs of frequency. We say something happens, we say something always happens when it happens for 100%, when it happens 100% of the time. We say something happens usually when it happens 90% of the time, frequently 80% of the time, often 70% of the time. In the previous example here, we have often. We can equally say that areas of that coral are later colonized for 70% of the time by sponges and soft corals. You see, instead of often, we used 70% of the time. They are equal. We use sometimes when a thing happens 50% of the time, occasionally 30% of the time, seldom 10%, rarely 5%, and never 0%. An interesting point related to seldom and rarely is that we have seen that people use them interchangeably, but seldom takes precedence when something happens more frequent, because we use seldom according to this infography when something happens 10% of the time. However, we use rarely when that thing happens 50% of the time. The next sentence: increases in abundance of plant eating fish and decreases in abundance of coral feeding fish accompany these changes. So, okay, in this sentence, as always, our first attempt is finding the main verb. The main verb here is accompany, and our subject is increases in abundance of plant-eating fish and decreases in abundance of coral-feeding fish. This subject is compound. It is not a single subject because it features and here. And connects two noun phrases, increases in abundance of plant-eating fish and decreases in abundance of coral-feeding fish. And accompany, the verb, the main verb of accompany, is in agreement with this compound subject. But what about the pronoun of these? These here is a demonstrative pronoun. It actually refers to something previously mentioned. These changes means changes mentioned here. Actually, these changes are areas of that coral usually colonized rapidly by algae and later colonized by sponges and soft corals. These changes, the other means these changes here in this next sentence, the second sentence. Sometimes you may confuse you may actually mistake the word decreases here with the main verb. But it is worth mentioning that increase and decrease in their bare form, they can also be used as nouns. And like other verbs, you don't need to turn them into gerund in order to make them noun. You can use their bare form as as nouns too. The verb accompany here, which will be this question, the subject of this question, this vocabulary question, means to go along with something, to attend something and stay connected with something, and stay in agreement with something. This is what accompany means. Actually, you have heard this sentence, this word that we say that my friend is my company, or he is my company, she is my company. It means that she accompanies me. She is my friend and she gives me company. She gives me friendship. She gives me a warm relationship. This is what accompany means. And don't confuse this verb accompany or company here with the common meaning of company, that means manufacturing firm, a kind of business, a corporation. An interesting aspect of this sentence is the presence of compound adjectives, plant eating and coral feeding. The parts of this kind of adjectives are connected with a hyphen here, hyphen. And let me give you a rule of thumb how to make these adjectives. Before beginning the interesting topic of compound adjectives, I would like to talk about gerunds and past participle as adjectives. When water is flowing, when we want to refer to this water, we say flowing water. Or when the car is running. When we want to refer to this car, more specifically with information that we know about this car, we say the running car. Sometimes we see a car that is broken. When we refer to this car, we say the broken car. Can you see the role of gerund as an adjective or past participle as an adjective? Okay. Sometimes we have we know that the engine of the car is broken. So we have a specific information. We have more now. We have more information that's broken about the car, and we know that the engine of the car is broken. So when we refer to this car, we say the engine broken car. All right. This is a compound adjective that I want to show you how they're made and how you can concise your words, concise the words you want to put in when you use a compound adjective. You know, here instead of saying a car that is broken and the engine of the car is broken, you can say the engine broken car. Simply. Have a jacket. You have a jacket. The jacket has sleeves. The sleeves of the jacket are long. So to refer this jacket in a way that your addressee understand better what you say, you state the long sleeve jacket. When you don't have this information that the sleeves of the jacket are long, you just say the sleeved jacket. Okay, sleeved here is the adjective, and in that case that the sleeves of the jacket are long, you say the long sleeve jacket. You actually add long and sleeved, these two adjectives together with a hyphen, making a compound adjective to refer specifically about the jacket, the long sleeve jacket. Scientists have made a discovery which blows your mind. So when you want to refer to this discovery, more specifically, you author it with an adjective, with a specific adjective connected to it. And that adjective is the mind-blowing discovery. The mind-blowing discovery means that this discovery blows your mind. She has a significant skill. But what is that skill? She solves problems masterfully. So, in order to refer to this person, we have more information to pin her down. And we use adjective, and that adjective is the problem solving person. This is this compound adjective that explains further about the person, gives more information, offers more information about the person. Another example, the story of her mother's death wrenched my heart. So this story was heart-wrenching, as this story wrenched my heart. So when you refer to this story, you have more information to pin down this story. So you use adjective, and that adjective is a compound adjective. You say the heart wrenching story. Okay, this is this adjective that pins down the story, and the addressee now knows better what a story we are talking about. The next sentence: coral larvae settle among the algae and eventually establish flourishing coral colonies. Here, settle is a main verb. The other main verb is establish, and we know here from the coordinating conjunction of and that connects both settle and establish, which functions as the main verbs here in the sentence. We don't put any comma before and because after and we don't have any subject for a different subject for the main verb of establish, and the subject of establish is the same coral larvae, which is the subject of settle too. An interesting topic here is again plural Latins. Larvae is the plural form of larva, and larva, you mean, is a stage in life of some animals, specifically insects. Some insects undergo metamorphosis. For example, butterflies begins their life when they are worms, but after finishing their worm-like life, and they begin to develop wings and fly their cocoons. You should remember larvae like algae, because algae and larvae are words that you frequently visit in TOEFL materials. Flourishing here is not a verb. It is actually a gerund, and I cited previously. Flourishing is a gerund that here functions as an adjective. Flourishing coral colonies. Next, in 10 to 15 years, The reefs often return to about the same percentage of coral cover as before. The main verb here is return, and the whole sentence talks about how much does it take, how much it does take actually that the negative effect on coral cover can be reversed. It takes 10 to 15 years. That's a huge amount. About here means nearly or almost. About has different meanings, and one of these meanings is almost or nearly. A grammatical point related to punctuation is that this is an adjective, an adverbial phrase. In 10 to 15 years is an adverbial phrase. So we need to place a comma immediately after it ends, immediately after years actually. However, this was an ignorance of the author of this passage. The last sentence, development of a forest species diversity takes about 20 years. Here, take is the main verb, and it actually talks about taking time, but what takes about 20 years? Development. Development of what? Development of a forest species diversity. This sentence is in the following of the previous sentence about the time that it takes. The negative effect on coral cover can be reversed. And here, forest species diversity. Forest species is an adjective. This is a compound adjective for diversity. And as we mentioned earlier in the previous sentences of this paragraph, the same paragraph, forest species as a compound adjective houses more information within a smaller space to gives and offers more information about this noun diversity. And forest species diversity means a kind of diversity which includes only four species of animals. Question 4. The word accompany. The passage is closest in meaning to occur along with, speed up, precede, end. Before working out this question, I would like to ask you make mental note for what I'm going to say. I believe this is should be your general strategy for answering TOEFL questions. That rather than isolating and finding the correct answer given the choices, your attempt should be rejecting the incorrect choices. And sometimes, specifically in the case of vocabulary questions, this strategy may not function because it is so important that the meaning, the real meaning of that word. For example, here accompany. Okay, so we try to answer this question. As I mentioned earlier, accompany means give someone something company, give someone something connection, touch, attending, and going along with. So, with this meaning, the first option is our answer. However, if you don't know the real meaning of accompany and you want to just reject the negative choices, in the case of speed up, this process is very difficult because if you replace accompany with the speed up in the sentence, we don't see any hole, any gap in the whole meaning of the passage. increases in abundance of plant-eating fish and decreases in abundance of coral-feeding fish, increase speed up these changes. Speed up means increase to increase in speed. And when you continue reading the rest of the passage, you didn't notice anything unusual about the passage. No, everything is okay. Thus, it is so important to boost your vocabulary, to make sure that you answer correctly vocabulary questions on the TOEFL exam. However, with a rejection method, you can reject the choice and when you insert this verb into the sentence instead of accompany, and as a verb means to finish something. And when you replace accompany with end here, you ask yourself, so, okay, what is the role of the sentence in delivering the meaning that the passage has aimed to get across. So you reject the choice end. But as for precede, I think we don't see something unusual in the passage. And again, precede like speed up can house in the sentence here in the place of accompany without making any problem for the passage to get across the meaning. Question 5. Which of the following is not mentioned in paragraph 3 as a consequence of the destruction of an area of a coral by a canthaster? Here, immediately after a canthaster, we need a question mark. I apologize for this. Perhaps the writer of this passage has forgotten to mention this punctuation mark. This is a negative factual question, like the first question, and the keyword of not here, written in bold, is the token of the negativeness of this factual question. In the first question, the keyword of except shouldered the responsibility. In the TOEFL exam, only the keywords of not and except in the reading section can be representatives of the negativeness in factual questions. But to answer the question, we need to find an option among the given options which is not mentioned in paragraph 3 as a consequence of the destruction of an area of a coral by a canthaster. In order to understand this condition, to answer the question, I want to break this condition into two conditions for the sake of simplicity, to actually machinarize answering the question. And this machinery comes from logic. In logic, when we have a proposition or simply a sentence or a clause comprised of two separate clauses connected with, and we can show that compounded clause with A and B. Actually, here A and B function to represent the clauses comprising the whole clause, the whole sentence. We can demonstrate this clause better. We can replace and with a conjunction, with actually conjunction symbol in logic. Yeah, we have this representation of the mentioned compounded clause, and this symbol represents and. All right. Now, if we place it logical not upon this compounded preposition, this compounded clause, we want to see that what happens or how can we apply that logical not to this clause. In this equation, we placed a logical not upon the compounded clause, and we see that we can apply that logical not to each ingredient as long as we change the symbol, we change the operator. And here the operator changes into this conjunction, and this conjunction stands for or, the usual or that we know. And as we mentioned earlier, this conjunction symbol represents and. You see, or equals this conjunction symbol, and equals conjunction. We had this clause from the question prompt mentioned in paragraph 3 as a consequence of the destruction of an area of a coral by a confessor. So we can equalize this clause. Actually, we can decompose this clause into two ingredients for the sake of simplicity, for our aim, for our purpose. Okay, we have this clause. Mentioned in paragraph 3 as a consequence of the destruction of an area of a coral by a confessor, houses latent and. Actually, there is an and conjunction in this clause which connects two ingredients, and the two ingredients are mentioned in paragraph 3 and being a consequence of the destruction of an area of a coral by a confessor. Now, if we place an and upon this clause, we have actually this relation not parenthesis opens, our clause parenthesis closes, and this relation equals this clause according to this equation in logic. With the aid of this logic, we actually applied the logical not to the whole compounded clause, and we have this clause. Not mentioned in paragraph 3, or not being a consequence of the destruction of an area of a coral by a confessor. Actually, this is the condition that our answer should conform to. Finally, we reach this condition in the question prompt, and any answer to this question should conform to this condition. We have 3 ways to explore the given options to find an answer. The first one is that an option should tick this box or live up to this condition and cross this one. For example, being a consequence of the destruction while not being mentioned in paragraph 3. The second way is not being a consequence of the destruction while mentioned in paragraph 3. This is another way that an answer can conform to this condition. And the third one is that a candidate answer is neither a consequence of the destruction nor being mentioned in paragraph 3. Now let's check the options. We check the first option. The first option has a grammatical interesting point, and that's the common plural words that we know ends in s or es. And as we mentioned earlier, algae is a Latin plural, and we also have cited a rule of thumb for how to make plural Latin rooted words. And another interesting point is that algae is both singular and plural, and according to your mean, according to your intention, you can use a singular or plural verb to accompany it. And here the other means a plural algae, and due to that, he has employed colonize, the plural version of colonize, to accompany algae. Algae colonized the dead area. Okay. In the first sentence, we have areas of that coral are usually colonized rapidly by algae. So, areas of that coral are colonized by algae. We got this. We just got the same information that we received from the first option, but in a different way, in the passive mode. However, in the first option, we have the same information in the active mode. Algae colonize the dead area. So this condition does not conform to this option does not conform to either of these conditions. So it cannot be an answer for the question because it has mentioned in the passage. Here, it doesn't live up to this condition, while it is a consequence of the destruction. As a result of the destruction of that coral area by attacks from acanthasters, we will see that the areas are subject to attacks that are now destructed can be colonized by algae. So it doesn't take this option and take this option, so we cannot live up to this condition, and it is not an answer for our question. The second option, plant-eating fish increase in number. Like the first option, there is interesting grammatical point here, and that's that fish, as we know, is both singular and plural. Actually, the plural form of fish is again fish, and the other has meant the plural form of fish because the verb, the other, is employed, is in plural form, and we have an agreement between this verb increase and the subject, that is fish. Okay, going back to the paragraph. In the second sentence, rate that increases in abundance of plant-eating fish and decreases in abundance of coral-feeding fish accompany these changes. These is a demonstrative pronoun. But what changes? Changes mentioned in the previous sentence here. And what are the changes? Actually, the changes are areas of the coral being colonized by algae and later being colonized by sponges and soft corals. We may think of increases in abundance of plant-eating fish or decreases in abundance of coral-feeding fish as something that happens in a parallel way to the changes of colonization. From this clause after and decreases in abundance of coral feeding fish, we infer that now that coral are dead, so are species feeding on coral. So as a result of destruction of areas of corals, we have a decrease in abundance of coral feeding fish. And since this decrease comes with this increase in abundance of plant eating fish, it seems that this increase in abundance of plant eating fish is an indirect consequence of coral destruction. Also, algae here that colonize areas of that coral is a greenery, is kind of a plant. So when algae colonize areas of that coral, as a result, we will witness an increase in abundance of plant-eating fish. So this increase in abundance of plant-eating fish is an indirect consequence of the changes mentioned here, the changes of colonization and destruction of areas of coral. So the second option is a consequence of coral destruction, and also is mentioned in paragraph 3, and as a result it cannot live up to either of these conditions. And again, like the first option, the second option is not an answer to the question. The third option, coral larvae disappear. Larvae, like algae, is plural Latin, and the other, due to this state of being plural, has employed the plural form of the verb disappear to accompany larvae, to establish an agreement between the verb and the subject, that is larvae here. But we should check this option in the sentence. In paragraph 3, this sentence discusses coral larvae and states that coral larvae settle among the algae and eventually establish flourishing coral colonies. Coral larvae settle among the algae colonizing the areas of that coral, areas where coral thrived, but acanthasters destructed, and now algae colonized. So it means that coral appear, not disappear. Coral larvae appear, not disappear. This is so. Coral larvae appearance is a consequence of destruction of areas of coral by acanthaster. Okay, it means that the third option that talks about the disappearance of coral larvae can be our answer, because coral larvae, this sentence, coral larvae disappear, live up to these two conditions and tick them. Coral larvae disappearance has not been mentioned in paragraph 3, and the disappearance of coral larvae is not a consequence of the destruction of an area of coral by acanthaster. It is actually the appearance of coral larvae and flourishing and establishing a flourishing life where coral thrived is a consequence of the destruction of an area of coral by acanthaster. So it is our answer, but in order to make sure that we have checked every option. We checked the fourth option. Species diversity recovers fully over time. Unlike the verbs in the other three options, this verb conforms to the singular subject of species diversity. All right, back to paragraph 3 to check this option. In the last two sentences, we have information about the species recovery. In 10 to 15 years, the reefs often return to about the same percentage of coral cover as before. This sentence just talks about the recovery in the coral species. It does not offer much about species diversity. The last sentence. Development of a forest species diversity takes about 20 years. This sentence talks about an interval of time within which, with 100%, we will have a forest species diversity. And now a question rises. Is this forest species diversity the same full version diversity that option 4 talks about? We don't know. If this forest species diversity is the full version diversity that option 4 talks about, so option 4 can be achieved from paragraph 3. It is mentioned in paragraph 3, and it is a result of coral destruction. On the other hand, if this forest species diversity is wholly different from the full version diversity that option 4 discusses, then this option 4 has not been mentioned in paragraph 3, and we don't know whether or not option 4 is a conclusion of, is a consequence of coral destruction. So, and in that case, since option 4 has not been mentioned in paragraph 3, it can conforms to this condition or this condition, and in either case, it lives up to this condition that we concluded from the prompt. And as a result, species diversity, option 4, that is, species diversity recovers fully over time, can be another answer besides option 3 for question 5. But this is the difference between option 3 and option 4. In option 3, we with 100% certain know that this is answer to question 5, because coral larvae disappearance has not been mentioned in passage 3 as a consequence of coral destruction. But in the case of option 4, it is vague and we are unclear whether or not this option has been mentioned as a consequence of coral destruction in passage 3, in paragraph 3. We don't know. Now that we are unclear about option 4 and we are certain about option 3, definitely we choose option 3. This is the difference between option 3 and option 4.